my name is Rosie and welcome to Rosie Knits. This is my video podcast. This is my first episode, so thank you for being here. We're going to follow a normal video podcast format. So we will start with finished objects, go to WIPs or works in progress, and then end with acquisitions. Most video podcasts start with what they're wearing. It's summer, I'm wearing a store-bought t-shirt. I believe it's from TJ Maxx. So let's go ahead and get started with finished objects. Now, because this is my first video podcast, I'm going to not include everything I've ever made. That'll be a different video, but I am going to do all of my finished objects from the past 2 months. So it is currently July. I'm going to go over my May and June finished objects. So here we go. My first finished object in May has quite the story behind it. These are my I'm So Basic socks by Summer Lee. This is the 64 stitches. I believe it's the second size. This is knit in Cascade Heritage. I will put up the shade information somewhere. And the contrast color is Universal Yarn Mini Skein. I picked up both of these at my local yarn shop, which is called Harmony. It's located in Provo, Utah. And these were my first ever socks. I am thrilled. They fit really well. They fit a little better before I blocked them. I bought a size small sock blocker from Linda Hobby online, and it was just a little longer than my foot, so it bunches slightly. But that's okay for me. These are house socks anyway. The Cascade Heritage is a 75-25 merino superwash and nylon. The crazy story behind these. I don't know if you're ready, buckle up. When my husband and I were dating, I went on a study abroad to Austria. I lived in Vienna with a host family for 6 weeks to study music. It was a wonderful time of my life. And I knew I always wanted to bring my husband back because we were dating at the time and we would call every night, and just felt like the city I fell in love in. And so when we got married, we went on a really simple honeymoon. We were broke college students. We still are, but broke college students. But we knew we wanted to start saving for maybe a bigger trip to Europe. And so we finally saved up. We've been married almost 3 years, and before we had kids, we wanted to go do this Europe tour. We stayed in really cheap Airbnbs. We were on a super budget and country hopped. We went to Austria and Italy, Switzerland, Germany, and the Czech Republic. And on our way to Italy, we had so much trouble with the train system. Our train in Verona got delayed. There was a train that got delayed into Verona, and so we ended up getting into Venice to our Airbnb at like 1 in the morning, and it was crazy and a little scary because we were staying at this sketchy Airbnb and it was late at night, and it was quite the adventure. We had so much fun, but we were on our way out of Italy, and we loved Venice, but we were a little excited to get to Switzerland. And we had another trouble with our train. It was our train out of Milan into Switzerland, and before even the first stop, the train got delayed, and it's actually really sad. Somebody had jumped in front of the train, and we were delayed for almost 3 hours. And it was a really sad circumstance, and so it's okay that we got delayed. I'm more worried about the person's family, but because we were delayed, we started talking with the people around us on the train, and we were sitting next to this man named George from France. He was a farmer in rural France, and I was working on my socks. Now, I speak this much French, but I could hear he and his daughter were sitting next to us, and they kept saying chaussette, chaussette, which I knew was sock. So they were talking about my sock, and so I said, oh, chaussette, you know, and my brother had lived in France, and so we talked about that, and we just started talking, and so he was a sheep farmer, which was so cool, and so we talked about sheep, and he showed me videos of all of his sheep, and it was just this wonderful connection because I was knitting these on the train to Italy. And he kept saying the blue matched the seats of the train. And so he said, I'll always remember Milan and George when I look at these socks. And when we went to leave, he went to grab my hand, and you know how older people will grab your hand with two hands and kind of like, oh, thank you. So I gave him my hand, and he flips it over and starts reading my palm, and he gives me a palm reading. And at this point, my husband and I were cracking up. You could tell he was in jest, and he tells me like, oh, you have a long lifeline, and he didn't actually speak English, so his daughter was translating, and you could tell she was a little embarrassed, but he said we would have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and that we would always remember George. So these are my George socks, dedicated to George. Now, I loved sock knitting so much, I made another pair using the I'm So Basic by Summer Lee pattern. Let me grab those. These are the next pair that I made. I'm so proud of these. I made this colorwork design myself. I just went into Chartminder and whipped it up. If you go into my Ravelry, I've actually put a picture of the chart in case you'd like to make a matching pair. Now, the one trouble with these is that I did not remember to size up for the colorwork band, so it's a little tight. They still fit, it just has a little trouble going over my heel. It's right when it's this part of my foot, it's hard to get over. Once it's on, it actually fits great, so it's not a big deal and I can put them on. I also did not use the Linda Hobby sock blocker with this. I used an idea from Florence Miller. She for years used cardboard that she had cut out in her foot shape covered in plastic wrap. And so I did that with this. I made my own sock shape and they fit my foot much better, even despite the colorwork section not being the right size. To compare to my George socks, you can see the difference. This is more my true foot size. I'm a US size 7, sometimes 6.5. It's a pretty big difference. So I'm really happy with how these turned out. This is also using Cascade Heritage from my local yarn shop. The minis, again, are Universal Yarn minis. The green, I actually dyed myself, just using Rit dye. So that is how I got the green shade. But that is my sock. So the blue is actually the same as my George socks, and the white I had bought in another skein. And I'll link the color shades up on the screen. One more thing about these were actually finished in June. So these were June, the other ones were May, but I wanted to show the 2 socks together. So now to my first finished garment from May. This is my Stepbystep sweater by Florence Miller. It is so soft. I'm obsessed with this. This is knit in K+C Cloudpaca. That's what it is. This is knit in K+C Cloudpaca that I had bought from the Joann's closing sale. And I didn't quite buy enough for a full sweater. I had originally intended to make a scarf, and I had started the scarf and I just wasn't loving how it was turning out. So I decided I wanted it to be a garment. And so I paired it with Drops Air. This is Drops Air, the stripes in the shade Off-White. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. I will put in some footage of me trying it on for you here. And the one thing with this is it's a little short. I'm pretty sure I knit it to pattern. This is the size medium, I believe, or I think Florence uses numbers. I will put up what size and everything here. I believe I knit it to the length in the pattern and it's just a little cropped for my liking. I do have some leftovers of this yarn. I'm considering doing some sweater surgery and adding one more white stripe. I finished this in May and it's alpaca and I have not actually gotten a chance to wear it. So that's just my guess that it's too short. I think come this fall and winter, I will try it, wear it out, and see if I would like it longer, and then adjust the length accordingly. So it's so soft though. I'm really happy with this. My next finished object was my June project. This took me a little longer to complete than some of my other garments. I worked on it a little less frequently. We spent a lot of time with family in June. My husband's grandmother passed away and so there was a lot of time sitting at her bedside and with family, and so I didn't work on this as dedicatedly, and that's totally fine. That time with family is way more important. But this is my Stripehype sweater by Veronica Lindberg. This is the size medium, and this is knit in Drops Belle. I had some leftover Drops Belle from another project in both this white shade and the blue shade, and I wanted to use it in kind of a scrappier project. Unfortunately, I had to buy blue and green yarn for this project, and I was left over with more of that than I started with, so I'm thinking of maybe making a matching baby romper. I do not have a baby, but hope to someday. I do have 3 older brothers who are all married and having kids. I have 4 nephews, and so someone at some point will have a baby, and it'd be cute to match. So that is kind of my tentative plan with my Stripehype leftovers, but I am so happy with how this turned out. I really like my choice of Drops Belle. It's just really lightweight but soft. It's a great yarn to work with, and it will make it a little more wearable for me. I live in Utah. We have experienced all 4 seasons. However, it's pretty much hot or cold. And I tend to run warm anyway, and so I think this will be a great transitional piece that I might get more wear out of than if it was in 100% wool. So I'm really, really happy with this. I love the fit, I love the colors. I'm so happy. I will put in some BeReal footage as well of me wearing this. I'm also super happy. I have these labels that I got off of Etsy. I will link the shop that I bought them from, but you can put in your signature, so it's your handwriting that they print. And I just love that. It makes me just feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So that is my Stripehype sweater. This is my most recent finished object. Now for works in progress, or WIPs. I have 2. Now, I normally am a monogamous knitter. I like working on one project at a time. Otherwise, I hop around too much and nothing gets finished, or they take forever, and I like quick wins. However, I do have 2 right now. I have a sock and a garment. I will start with the socks. I'm really excited about these. It's another pair of socks. This has not been blocked yet, as I'm sure you can tell. I'm calling these my I'm So Nordic socks. These are also based off of the I'm So Basic sock by Summer Lee. It's just a great vanilla sock pattern, and I can really only make vanilla socks. So I winged it. I winged it. I made this as I went. I made these for my dad. This is also a gift knit. This was his Father's Day gift, and he wanted blue and white Nordic socks. He calls them Ming vase socks. Anything blue and white, he calls Ming vase, because you know those vases like this. And so I used the I'm So Basic sock pattern, and I made my own Nordic pattern in Chartminder. These are actually slightly different. So if you check out my Ravelry, those are 2 different charts that I will just put up in my Ravelry. Now, the bottom of the foot is so cool. It's this Nordic pattern. Now, this will not be in my Ravelry because this is from the Songbird mitten pattern, and I adapted it to the sock. And I just kind of did it as I went. It's nothing super technical or precise. I just kind of did it. And when I decreased, and it worked out. But I just love, this is the inside of the mitten, and I loved that pattern, and I knew my dad loved it. And so I made that the bottom of the sock. And so this was a hodgepodge. Now, as I'm sure you probably are wondering, I made one grave mistake, and that is having this white space. I loved it initially when I designed it. It was a pain because I had to cut the yarn. I knew I could have picked up my floats, and I tried, and it was way too tight, and it was just easier to cut the yarn. But that means I had an insane amount of ends to weave in. Can I show? I have a picture. I took a picture before I did it. Let me put that in, but you can see I kind of made all these bumps. And so my dad did try them on, and he did say they were comfortable. So I and I think I did an okay job weaving the ends in. I'm sure there was a better way to do it, but that's just how we did it. Now you can see I finished one sock. This is the extra large size of the pattern, just the biggest size. I was so terrified that these would not fit my dad. I mean, look how huge. Like, that's wider than my hand. Fit him perfectly. I was so pleased. I took so many measurements, but I don't live near my dad, and so I was really sad. I was trying to finish these before we went and visited for the 4th of July, and I was so close, but I actually ran out of the blue yarn, and I had to order more. So I'm going to mail these to my dad when we're done, but luckily I had the first sock finished so we could try them on. Here's the second sock. So you can see I've gotten quite far. I still have a little bit of blue yarn left, but I know that I will run out. So this has been hibernating until the yarn comes in. I bought it off of Etsy. It is, you're gonna laugh because I have a reason. This is Sandnes Garn Mandarin, which is 100% cotton. And I know what you're thinking. Why would you make socks in 100% cotton? Because my dad wanted them, and that's how we do gift knits. My dad is a little sensory when it comes to his socks, and he said, I would love a pair of socks. As I've been getting better at knitting, he's like, I would love socks, but they have to be 100% cotton. And I told him time and time again, I said, Dad, cotton socks are gonna fall apart the first time you wear them. And he said, I will darn them, I don't care, I will wear them with holes, I just can't wear wool or anything with plastic. And I said, great, coming right up. And so I researched, and people said Sandnes Garn Mandarin is really soft and pretty durable, and so this was a dream to work with. Actually, I kind of want a sweater in this. It's so soft. It feels like merino wool. It didn't hurt my hands at all to knit with. It was a little bit splitty, but not as bad as other cottons I've worked with. It was my first time using Sandnes Garn yarn, which was wonderful, and I'm kind of obsessed. This is also why I decided to do the color work on the bottom. I'm hoping it makes it just a little more durable. I'm actually hopeful. We shall see. I will give you an update on how they hold up, but these are almost a finished object. Just not quite. Okay, I'm so excited about this work in progress. This is actually a gift knit for my mother-in-law for Christmas, and it's July. But sweaters take a long time, and I did not want to feel rushed near the holidays. So this will be sitting for a while, but that's okay. I'm happy about that. This is maybe the most beautiful thing I've made in my entire life. Where's the front? Here's the front. I'm obsessed. This is my Lumi. Pretty sure it's Lumi. I should have Googled it beforehand. It means water lily in Finnish. Yes, Finnish. This is my Lumi sweater by Sari Nordland. This is the size 5, or the extra large size. I'm just obsessed. I just separated for the sleeves. As you can see, I finished the German short rows in the back, so the back is longer. Stunning. I don't even know what to say. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever made. It's going to be hard to give this away. However, my dear mother-in-law is the most knit-worthy person I know. She takes care of clothing better than I do, and she also is always cold, and she loves superwash merino. So this is knit in Cascade 220. This is the shade Celestial, shade 252, I believe, and I actually got it secondhand online. And this is their white shade. I will put in the shade number. The white shade I purchased at my local yarn shop. Oh, sorry, the yarn's falling. I had some left over from my Salty Days sweater by Veronica Lindbergh, and I bought one more skein. I'm actually thinking I might only have needed one. I might not have needed to buy the other one, but that's okay. I am a little worried that it might be small. I will put in some BeReal footage of me trying this on. It fits me pretty well, and I am not the size of my mother-in-law. However, I do know from experience that Cascade 220 grows a lot in blocking, so I'm hopeful that this will fit her perfectly, because it has that relaxed fit on me anyway, so I'm hopeful that this will fit. if it doesn't, I have the world's most beautiful sweater that is for me, and I'll make her something else. But I think she's gonna love this. She looks fantastic in jewel tones, and she loves anything color work. And she got a sweater from her sister, my husband's aunt, for Christmas last year, 2 years ago, I can't remember, that they had bought in Germany that was 100% merino superwash, and it's cabled and really intricate, and she calls it her super sweater, and she does not take it off in the winter. She pretty much wears it every day. And it's a bit more of a cobalt blue. It's like a really bright blue. And so I think she'll really enjoy that this is still blue, one of her favorite colors, but a little more jewel toned and different from her cabled super sweater. So I hope this maybe becomes her new super sweater. I'm just so excited about it. Going with this, one of my acquisitions, I need to go grab. I should be more prepared. I wanted to make her the matching Lumi socks for Christmas, and so I just bought the yarn for that. I'm a little sad the shade does not entirely match. I bought it online. I went in store to my local yarn shop and they didn't have a close match. I went to some reseller online and I looked like the right shade and it wasn't, but I think it's close enough I might still use it. So I'll go grab that. This is my Heritage sock, Cascade, and you can tell even with how it's showing up on camera, this is way brighter of a blue than my Lumi sweater. Online it looked very similar, but I think if it's on your feet and one is on, it's gonna be close enough. It's not quite as muted. I can hold it up if you'd like. You can see a little closer. It's just a little brighter, but I think it's as close as I might get. This is color number 5626 in dye lot 6. So we'll see if this ends up knitting up maybe even closer to the shade and matching sock-wise. Even if it's not a perfect match, I think my mother-in-law will still really enjoy having matching socks. So that is one of my acquisitions. This was bought online. I'm excited about this. These are also Cascade Heritage. Are you noticing a theme? My local yarn shop carries a lot of Cascade yarn, and as a student on a budget, it's pretty affordable, and I like working with it. So there you go. I will have to put up the shade names for these. This is their red. It's not Christmas red, it's the one just one darker than that. And this is an off-white color. This is wound up like this because I actually split it with my friend Allison. She's my husband's cousin, we're besties. She's been learning to knit and she just finished her first beanie and really wanted to dive right into colorwork mittens. And I'm not one to stop her. I think if you make something you're excited about, your skills will rise to the occasion. So I'm going to be making them with her to kind of walk her through. She will be making the Songbird mittens by Erica, and her last name starts with an H and I can't remember it. We'll go right up here. Hauser is my best guess. Erica Hauser. I've made the Songbird mittens before, so I didn't want to make something exactly the same. So I will be making these mittens that I just found, and so I can't remember the name of them, but I will put them up here. So I think these will just look stunning in this red and white color. So it was great. My friend and I could go. We each bought one skein and then split it because Cascade Heritage comes in 100 gram skeins. You only really need 50 grams of each color, so we split it and we'll have matching mittens, which is so fun. I'm not planning on making these mittens for a little while, but she's hoping to make them soon. I'll probably cast on with her to show her and then they might hibernate for a while. But I'm excited about those. Now, my next acquisition I bought for my birthday in June. Again, this is my first knitting podcast, so we're going back in time, quite a while. I had leftover Cascade Heritage, that's my theme of the day. These are from my George socks, and these are from my tulip socks that I made. And that's quite a significant extra, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with them. And then my porcelain sweater by Lynette has been on my queue for forever. I really have been dying to make it. and I thought these colors would be perfect. It calls for a fingering held with a soft silk mohair, and so I think these will be great. Yeah, I wouldn't normally use sock yarn in a garment, but I have it. I want to use what I have in stash, and I love the feeling of this, so why not? It'll be more durable. So I'm really excited. So I bought 2 more skeins of the white shade and 1 skein of the blue. Let me show you those. So there they are in the skein. This is the shade 5604, and this is the shade 5682. Just beautiful together. I love pure white. I know a lot of people do not. I don't really care how it looks on me. I just love it. And so that is why I went there. And then for the soft silk mohair, let me grab that. I got 2 skeins of the Gepard K+C, and in this shade, which shade is this? In shade 416. It's their white. And 1 skein in shade 1010. Oh, stunning. I just love these. This is slightly marbled, which I think will really pair well with the Cascade sock yarn. I only bought 2. I have 3 skeins of this because I had a little bit left over from my Sophie scarf that I made, and so this I think will pair perfectly, and so I have almost 4 balls of this. I only bought 1 of this. I might need to end up going back to get a second, but I figured I didn't really want leftovers if I could help it, so we'll start with 1. My local yarn shops carries this at all times, so we can go back and get that at any time. That is it for today. Thank you for joining me for my first ever knitting podcast. I would like to end my knitting podcast with a little bit of a story time usually. However, I feel like I already gave you so much story with George and everything. So let me know if that's something you're interested in, and I hope to see you in the next time. Bye!